We are back. It is another episode of the GoldenV Podcast. It is Sunday, September 7th, 2025. Our good friend TJ Lee joins the GoldenV Podcast just a slight 48 hours after the BC Lions' last second loss in Ottawa against the Redblacks. Before we get into some game particulars, my research, let's bring in TJ. TJ, how are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Thanks for having me. Always a good time to talk football with a friend.
Yeah, yeah, I know, but it's a tough one, right? Because obviously that last second loss to Ottawa with a game in hand, and I've done some research and some things that I've looked at, and one of the things that really struck me, I don't know if you saw this video. I don't think I sent it to you prior, but just the post game comments from Micah Awe. And if there's anybody on the BC Lions team that you're going to believe it on defense, you're going to believe it's going to be a guy like Micah Awe, right? And he made a couple of comments talking a little bit about grit, but he just sort of said this thing, and maybe I can share the video. He's like, "This is how it's been. 4 games of doing this, third or fourth game where we've had a loss like this." He goes, "We don't. We need to learn from our mistakes. We don't need to lose this way again and keep making the same mistakes."
hmm Yeah. It sucks. It sounds repetitive, right? If I'm a fan listening to those remarks, it sounds repetitive, and it makes you feel a certain way.
Yeah,
As a fan, and I understand that being on both ends. As a fan of the BC Lions, a fan of Mike Holloway, and a player.
yeah, yeah,
So Um, but you have to be consistent in your messaging, in terms of your belief,
yeah.
no matter how silly it sounds. I do you one better. I'm not retired, you know? So your message, my point is your messaging has to be clear, you know what
Right,
I mean? And no
right,
matter how silly or whatever it sounds.
right.
So I'm very supportive in his remarks. He meant a lot by it, but as a fan, I was kind of, you know, a little off put by it, but I understood as
Yeah.
an athlete what he meant by it. So when you're in that position, you're in a position to be critiqued by everything you say. So that's a good position to be in, nonetheless.
Yeah, and I didn't get the impression. I'll find it and share it in the chat here. I didn't get the impression from Mike getting from anything. Quite the opposite. And I don't think he's that kind of guy. From what I know of him, and certainly the amount of interest and hype that was generated bringing him into BC for that particular reason. Um,
hmm
right? I mean, they brought him in for a reason, obviously, to not pull any punches with stuff like that or anything like that, because he was brought here to help improve that defense, but also bring that attitude. And so, um,
Right.
it doesn't surprise me at all. But here's some stuff that I thought was a little interesting. Um, a couple things you could talk about on defense for us. I mean, the Lions, 4 sacks by the Lions defense, right? After the
Yeah.
game, against Toronto. Uh, you
Yeah.
know, there's guys like Jonah Tavai, is somebody that I really noticed who sacked Dustin Crum, the Red Blacks quarterback. But here's a couple things: 4 sacks and then the loss. Another one I found too that thought was interesting from the Lions' Matt Baker's game notes was Ottawa's perfect in red zone opportunities. Um,
Mm.
Lions capitalized on 1 of 2. Ottawa's 4 for 4. Talk a little bit about that for us from a defensive perspective.
For sure. I mean, you as a defense, you want to have a bend don't break mentality. You want to give up, the short stuff and never give up the deep stuff, right? And knowing the type of quarterback you're going against the Crumb. Um, he doesn't have a killer arm. I mean, I'm pretty sure he scrambled for 2 of the touchdowns. So having the awareness to understand who you're going against as a team and being aware that, yeah, they are perfect from the red zone, but you want to make sure it's at least not a running touchdown. He has to earn it. I mean, in running, I guess for quarterbacks that aren't scrambling quarterbacks, if they run, they're earning it. But if
Right.
you are known for to be a scramble quarterback, if you run, that's just your norm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the D line did a good job, I would say, a majority of the game. And I feel like they were humming that game. I feel like the D line
I thought
was
they would be.
had a really good game.
Yeah.
But also when a quarterback scrambles for a touchdown, that would also imply that you had good coverage on that play.
Yeah.
So
That's a good point.
as a whole, and as a whole, the defensive whole, you have to play complementary ball. It has to be this complementary ball where we have your back no matter what. If we're covering good, we have to figure out a way to tackle the quarterback on the
Right.
other game. So it's just that complementary sense that the team needed, in that game.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's a lot of ways to look at it, right? I mean, you have more insight than I ever would being in that locker room as early as last season. And one of the things I was thinking about asking you was, what's going on in that locker room right now? How do you think the guys are feeling maybe a little bit after that loss, and then the way that defense might feel?
Well, I mean, I guess my last point to the last thing we were just talking about is guys making plays all
Right.
year long. But when you talk about over the course of a 55 play game, making 4 good plays, that kind of is a testament to your consistency,
Yeah.
and you have to make plays at the right time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so I mean, in terms of what the team's thinking, they could have had a great game last game, but down the stretch, they didn't
Yeah.
do so good, so
Yeah.
having the awareness to understand the important times to really turn it on, and really be focused. And so I feel like the team right now just needs someone to galvanize them and bring in that energy and help them believe, So whether it's bringing in a player of some sort that can galvanize the guys, that's
Hmm.
huge. Sorry, I'm sitting next to this fan. It's really cold. I
No, that's
didn't know.
okay. All good. All good.
It's making
Well, it's
me
hot.
shiver.
It's still
Yeah,
hot, right? Yeah, no,
yeah.
I turned my air conditioner off before these because it's quite loud in my office. But I was looking at a bunch of things, and we're going to keep going here because I was looking at the injured list, right? Christian Covington out, Thibaut Debaye out, Dwayne Hendricks out, Isaiah Messam out, your old friend Gary Peters out,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and Sehon Tuhema out, right? That's 5 guys on defense out.
Right.
I think that's an excuse. I mean, I don't say an excuse, but when you see that, you're like, okay, well, maybe there's a little bit of, you know, something
Well,
lacking there, right?
in, in football, there's no excuses. I mean, you can't have any excuses. You just gotta hope that they're getting healthy at the right time.
Yeah,
And I think there's no better time than now,
yeah,
for guys to come around and be healthy, so we can put out a good product
yeah,
and end up winning, and pulling out wins at a time that winning's very, needed for the
yeah,
guys.
yeah, yeah. Because it's really tough, right? I mean, I was watching that game. I watched it. You and I were texting. I watched it again. I watched quarter by quarter highlights today. I know it was compressed to about 15 minutes. And there's a lot of things going on in that game that I saw. I don't know if you saw them. You probably did. Little mistakes here and there that I felt like culminated with that loss. That if you really looked back at that game in depth and some of the mental mistakes, some of the things that went on, and we'll get to Sean White's missed field goal, which is something that never happens,
Yeah.
basically, right? So
Yeah.
I like in the second quarter, the turnover by Hatcher, they're
Oh.
on offense, right? That really wacky, weird turnover. You see that in the
Mhm.
context of the game at that part of the game, and you're like, okay, maybe, maybe not. You think about it now. I mean, hindsight is 2020, and you go, that's probably a bigger play than you realized at the time.
Yeah. 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 I just kind of, it goes back to the culture, right? It goes into the culture you're building in a locker room where nothing can stop you. You can't
Yeah,
hang your head when things go bad because the ball, like they say, the way the ball rolls, it's not gonna always be in your favor in the course of a 55, 60 play game.
right, right.
So having that rebound, that bounce back, and having somebody in your team to complement the other side. So if it's not special teams, like Seven's return, Seven had a great return.
Yep,
I thought the
really
game
good.
was going to get out of reach, from
Yep,
that because of the
yep,
momentum swing, right?
yep.
Then you got, the ebbs and flows of the defense breaking down or, Crumb's scrambling ability because he's a really fast quarterback. He's
Yeah,
deceivingly
you would
fast.
know.
So, yeah, I remember chasing him a long time ago when he was younger, I'm like, oh, wow, this guy's faster than I thought, so
Yeah, yeah,
um, that's a thing too, but then again, somebody has to be there, to make a play for your team, And if not, I mean, the chains keep moving and opportunities keep growing, right? And
Yeah,
probabilities start shifting in other team's way. So
yeah,
it's just a combination of making plays at the right time,
yeah, it
having
is.
complementary football, and one phase got to step up for the team to find a way to win. You have to
Yeah,
find a way to win, and that game was great. It ended up being a great game, and that's
yeah, it
ultimately
was.
what the fans want. Um, but as a BC Lions fan, a lot of costly plays, we
Yeah,
could go back and look at.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but ultimately, at the end of the game, we want to have the awareness to, you know, not let the
yeah.
team
To
score
get the win, right?
to get
Because
the win.
yeah, because there's lots of stuff, right? I mean, we talked about the red zone opportunities. We talked about the sacks. We talked about really squandering a game by Justin McInnes at 148 yards. I mean, there's that 50 plus yard play that he made for the touchdown. That was, I mean, like you can't ask any more out of an offense and a receiver, right? And I
Yeah.
mean, the offensive line, I didn't highlight their injuries and people have been critical of them, but like when you sign a guy like Deshaun Allen out of Toronto after they won the Grey Cup, he hasn't played. Then
Mhm.
David Foucault basically hasn't played all year. Who else was I looking at? That's I I mean Tyler Packer's on the offensive line. I mean those two guys have been out, and there hasn't been any excuses on offense, right? In terms of
Yeah.
where the way the interior line's playing on giving work protection or giving him time, and yeah, there were some sacks, but I mean it really comes down to defense, right? You know, I was looking at some other stuff here too, and I think about obviously White's missed field goal, that really strange penalty by Jake Mayer at the end of the game after the kick where he tried to tackle the Ottawa player. They threw a flag. They called it a late hit that advances him 15 yards, right? So
Mhm.
let's try and put that little bit behind us too, because we're going to talk about a few other things, and we've got obviously Ottawa this coming Friday at BC Place. You've got a great game by the offense. You had a great game by McInnes. I mean, James Butler, I don't know. He kind of speaks for himself. I was thinking about Stanback playing on the other end for Ottawa too after he played for us last year. Um, but what do the Lions have to do on defense for this coming week?
You have to figure out a way to corral that quarterback. You want him to beat you with his arm and not his legs.
Right.
I'm not sure how many wins he's had, just straight out, just airing out the ball.
Yeah.
Um, but I guarantee it'll be a harder challenge for him.
Right.
Whether that's putting a spy on him or kind of like you would play against a Trey Ford. You have to send faster DBs that
Yeah.
can tackle him.
Yeah.
Like I said, he's fast as a DB. I mean, he's a fast guy. But when you send a DB after him, your chances of catching him is greater. The rush did good last week. Um, Mike Holloway was everywhere as always. And I'm not going to say the coverage was particularly bad. The coverage was bad in certain situations. And then the costly penalties,
Yeah.
defense is a hard game to play, especially when you're only allowed to tackle in, one small little area, in 1 microsecond,
Yeah.
moving at a very fast velocity and someone moving, it's like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's very hard to do the right way. So some penalties are excusable, but the inexcusable ones, the temper ones and all that stuff has to be diminished so the defense have a greater chance. It's as simple as that. So in terms of hurting ourselves, we
Yeah.
can't afford to hurt ourselves because as a defensive unit, we're already moving backwards. They're already running up to the line of scrimmage. We're already 1 yard behind the ball. You can't hit the quarterback anywhere, really. You know, so you really have to be clean in what you're doing, and aware of
Right.
what you're doing. It can't be reckless play to be a good defense anymore. You can't just be reckless, and knocking heads off per se. You have to make good form tackles, and that's just the name of the new game that we're in.
Yeah. And I'll pull this one up too because I've got our the defensive side of the ball from the Ottawa game. Um, and we've talked about that in the past, right? And so you see the defensive side of the ball. You see what's going on there. And looking at some guys that were out, obviously Sahon Tahoma was out, Gary Peters out as well. So we had Carter Jr. in there, Edwards Cooper. Kent Jr. and Stone, who I don't recognize halfback. Obviously, boundary being Carter Jr. and Edwards Cooper. We got Kent Jr. and Stone on the field side. Um, who's coming in and who's coming out maybe for next week, and I'll just pull this pickup so we can have a look.
Who's coming in for next week? Well, I imagine Gary Peters not being out for too much longer.
Yeah.
Which will put Stone out. I really love Carter Jr. at the strong,
Right.
at the strong corner position. He's,
Right.
he's kind of grown and he's still a rookie. So let him be comfortable and confident going into the second tail end of the season. So leave him at the field corner. Gary Peters at the boundary corner. TJ Lee at the boundary half. Did I say that? Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
No, I said TJ Lee at the boundary half.
We'll see.
Right. Anywho, let's see. What else we got? I mean, we got Edwards Cooper. I prefer. I honestly, at this point, I would switch Edwards Cooper and Kent Jr. Kent Jr. I've always been excited about his physical play. I think he could be a very physical guy in terms of getting in the box. That's just my take about it. He has a wrestling background, and he's aggressive minded. Edwards Cooper is more of a field half. He's able to cover a little more in space, and he has speed. Other than that, I mean, based on the pieces that we have, those are the pieces that I would run with. They have to develop that chemistry over time. Williams, he's done a good job. I feel like they do a good job of putting him in situations to be successful by the plays that they call. So if you can keep him near the box, good things are going to happen. So other than that,
away and Josh Woods, I don't see that changing.
No, I actually like that.
And then obviously on the front we see Desahone Tahuma come back. Obviously Gary Peters. I mean, like we said, Christian Covington's out. I thought Jonah Tavai played a great game.
He did.
I saw one of the sacks, the way he got straight through to Crum. I was like, I mean, he like his uniform and everything else was banged up too, right? So he's out there putting,
Tavai is due. He's been very due for a solid game, and I feel like he's gonna. I mean, barring injury, because he's been up and down from injuries, so I feel like he's gonna have a strong tail end of the year. Touré's been great as well.
Right.
So those are good things, and the bets is gonna be bets. And a lot of people would say his play dropped off, but I would say in terms of making plays in production, it dropped off in terms of numbers, but not really in terms of habits, who he is, and the uncoachable. So Beck's always going to be there, but as your familiar teams adjust for you and game plan for you, and so I think that may be what allows guys like Tavai and Touré to show off as much as they do in a game, and then we kind of forget that it's because of bets, So it's that one thing that happens in football, where when a new player is making plays, they kind of disregard the old ones.
Right.
But it's a whole unit of play.
Yeah. Let's flip around to the offense too. I don't know if we're going to see many changes in there as well, right? I mean, trying to think. I think the guys on the injured list already talked about.
Yeah.
Except for Jermaine Jackson. That looks pretty much like that's going to be this Friday's lineup.
I love this offense. I'm just going to say that it's just the timely turnovers. And I mean, it happens really, but if the defense can complement their timely turnovers, then we'll be having a different type of conversation, because this offense puts up a lot of numbers. In terms of yards, and they move the chains well, and they get the ball out fast. So it's never really a situation where your O-line becomes a problem, So they're doing good with the pieces, even being banged up with the pieces they have. So And then you have a lot of star power there, where you got Hatcher and you got your deep ball Barry Hill, and you got your mid ball, going to McGinnis, and your sure catcher. You got
Yeah.
two sure catchers in Katoy and Eberhardt, so those are your possession receivers. So you have a little bit of everything on that roster. So there's not really much bad to say about those guys other than the costly turnovers at pivotal times.
Yeah.
That doesn't get kind of helped out by the defense.
Yeah.
But also, kind of the same remains. Like I said, for defense, you can make a few plays, but you have to play. You have to make more plays in the 55
Yeah. Yeah.
call game than you don't make plays.
Yeah.
So
And I'm trying to figure out because what I just realized is the status of Katoy's injury, right?
mm-hmm.
She's
Yeah,
hurt. So we'll see if we I'll get an injury list this week from the Lions throughout the week.
it looked bad. It looked
Yeah, I
bad.
didn't see it. So
Yeah, I was getting ready to go somewhere. I don't remember, kid's birthday party or something, and that was the last play I saw before
yeah,
I left and
yeah,
before I got in the garage. And then looked like he returned, and I'm like, oh, he returned. So
okay,
I assumed that it may be a game time decision if he was able to return, because I expected
yeah,
it to be more serious. Um, but if not,
yeah.
you're gonna need to fill those shoes.
Well, it's gonna be hard,
Yeah.
right? Like you said. What did you say to me once? He's like the best. What was it? Open field. Open field. Um, he's the best open field something, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
You, you,
So
he's an open field nightmares for the defensive backs. So
yeah,
every defensive back is scared to tackle him, and somehow misses the tackle. And yeah, it's wild. So it's that magic he has. You give him a hitch, and if he makes the
yeah,
pass, if it's behind the linebackers, it's gone, or he's gonna throw a few guys off and
yeah.
make a play.
All right. Well, that's good for this week. Let's wrap it up there. We'll touch base with you again maybe in the next month because this is it's been good and it's been educational and it's like we said, there's 6 games left, right? And you can take it in 3-game increments. So there's still
Yep.
time. There's still time.
Yeah, there's still time. I'm not sure how many games they have to win, because there's a few 5-7 teams in there in the runnings. So,
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully some good things can happen between now and the playoffs. But this is your playoff run. This is your tail end, your last 6 games right here.
Yeah.
Make or
Yeah.
break your season. Even though the fans feel like, it's over, but you have your diehard fans and believers, and hopefully they get what they, yearn for.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks for doing this.